Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Sir, you have served the people of Colorado and this country in many different capacities as law enforcement, in our armed services, State House too, I believe, and now in our nation's House. I want to ask you, though, back at home, people in blue cities, places like Denver, Colorado, Aurora, which of course had the infamous Tren de Aragua incident taking place at the apartment building there. Are Democrats becoming a little bit more sympathetic to the notion that maybe our borders should be closed, at least to violent criminals?
Well, I think you've got two categories of Democrats there. You have the ruling Democrats that are in power right now, who unfortunately continue to double down on just their far left failed agenda. And then you have the rank and file folks in Colorado who just want to be able to live their lives, have a business, have a family, have their best version of the American dream. And unfortunately, when you have cities like Denver, Colorado, which has double the homicide rate of San Francisco right now, unfortunately, that dream can't be reached by a lot of these folks. And so being able to have a robust enforcement policy to get violent international gangs out of our community is a very common sense first step in being able to get back to that safe, affordable community that so many rank and file voters want.
Oh, looks like we might have lost the congressman there for a second. Let's see if we can try to get him back in the control room. The congressman recently introduced the Uplift Act, which I'm really excited about. We'll get to ask him about that hopefully in a second, trying to undo his own state sanctuary policy using federal policy. Congressman, you still with us? Did we get you back? There you are.
I got you. How about me?
Yeah, it looks like he's still freezing. All right, we're going to try to fix that and get to him. It's amazing that the federal government has to go in and try to correct the problem that a state and a city creates for itself. But Denver's ground zero of this, Aurora's ground zero of this, and the notion that this is going to keep on and the American people are going to tolerate it. The polls and the election told us otherwise. We're done with this. Yeah. It's fascinating that these cities are doubling down.
Well, and they find these passion stories, like an actress in L.A. who was in one of the reboots of American Pie, who so sadly and devastatingly and terrifyingly was, I think she was held for 12 or 13 days. Well, as it turns out, she had not renewed her visa cycle after cycle after cycle, had a business in Los Angeles that you know, obviously when you have immigration issues, anything you are tied to there then becomes an issue. So I think the American people are wising up to it this time.
Yeah, no, and I can't imagine, too, if you were one of those people that went through the horror in Aurora, and now you see a federal judge say, you can't get rid of those people. They keep them in the country so they can harm more Americans. You got to be going just nuts about that. Congressman, I think we got you back now. That's good, because we got a lot of questions for you. You are taking this issue on directly, the sanctuary city issue, in your own state. Talk us about one of your first pieces of legislation you've introduced, the Uplift Act.
Yeah, the Uplift Act, unhandcuffing police to locate and interdict foreign transgressors. It does a lot of things, but it takes direct aim at those sanctuary state policies by, among other things, extending hold harmless protections to state and local law enforcement officers if they decide to work with the federal authorities to get violent criminals out of our communities, even if that coordination is prohibited by state and local law, which it is in places like Colorado.
I want to ask you about the relationship with law enforcement. You obviously have a deep love as someone who served in blue. It endangers law enforcement on the ground when you have a state like Colorado, a governor like Jared Polis, who you've got this push and pull of responsibilities and desires as far as that community to lock them up. It endangers law enforcement, doesn't it?
It absolutely endangers law enforcement. I mean, we're talking the Sinaloa cartel, we're talking the Jalisco cartel, we're talking Tren de Aragua, and at times these people have guns to where they're potentially outgunning law enforcement officers. You can go look at some of the information surrounding the takeover of some of the apartment complexes in Aurora, where rank and file patrol officers, through no fault of their own, were uncomfortable responding to those places from an officer safety perspective, unless they actually had armored vehicles with them. And so these sanctuary policies really provide sanctuary only for criminals and violent gangs and cartels that are committing crimes and dealing poison like fentanyl in our communities. And in Colorado, it is the people who pay the price. Colorado is number 2 in the nation for teenagers overdosing and dying on fentanyl, which again, in my area, is predominantly trafficked by the Jalisco and the Sinaloa cartels.
That's so tragic and so unnecessary. Sir, you're a law and order guy. When you see a federal judge tell the President of the United States he can't remove illegal alien gang members who pose an imminent danger to Americans from the country, he can't do it to protect Americans, what runs through your mind, and how do you think the courts will ultimately resolve this?
Oh, I mean, I think we've already seen what's going to happen there. The Trump administration has appealed that because it makes no sense. We have to be able to get violent criminals out of our communities when they are committing crimes. And we've seen the direct impact of that in districts like mine. Again, Tren de Aragua, they had, it was being referred to as the nightclub, basically their hangout, not an actual nightclub, just their hangout spot, actually in my district. And we saw a major raid that was coordinated by several different federal law enforcement agencies take almost 50 of these members into custody and then immediately turn around and deport them, because getting these folks out of our community is the best and the fastest way to be able to protect public safety and make sure that we actually have safe places for our families. And so that, unfortunately, was not happening under the previous administration. It's not happening under the sanctuary state policies. And so we desperately needed a new administration to come in and within a couple of weeks round up dozens of these known violent foreign criminals and gangbangers.
Yeah, so important.
Sir, before we let you go, I got to ask you about the money and the budgeting side of things. Republicans pretty smoothly got through the CR process, including in the Senate, which I think was maybe a little bit of a surprise towards the end of things. But now the real work begins. And Republicans certainly seem to be more unified now than they were even in the 118th or 117th Congress. How unified, though? I feel like this is when the pedal hits the pavement. This is when we are going to find out just how unified you are.
Well, they say in sports, success breeds success, and we've already had 3 big successes where the pundits said we couldn't do it. They said we wouldn't get a Speaker of the House in the first vote. We did. They said we wouldn't pass a reconciliation resolution out of the House. We did. And they said we wouldn't be able to pass a continuing resolution, which actually helps to reverse the trend by lowering government spending while fully funding all of the critical functions of government that we need. We were able to pass that out of the House. And so, again, I think that we are unified, and I'm very confident that going forward, we're going to be able to address a lot of these different issues and be able to continue on the good work that the administration is doing.
Yeah, I keep calling it the Patti LaBelle Congress. There's a new attitude on Capitol Hill, and it's really, really nice to see. Congressman Gabe Evans from Colorado, thank you so much for being here.
Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right.